The night is quiet enough to hear the truth you've been carrying beneath the noise. Success has never been far away, only hidden under layers of hurry, comparison, and the ache of proving yourself again and again. You can feel it in your chest, the tightness that shows up when the calendar is full and your soul is empty. You can feel it in your jaw, the clench that comes when you try to be everything to everyone and still lie awake, wondering if you've missed the one decision that matters. And you can feel it in your breath, shallow, quick, hopeful, afraid, because part of you suspects there is a wiser way, a kinder way, a truer way to build a life that actually fits. If no one has said this to you today, let this be that moment. You are not weak for being tired. You are not behind for feeling lost. You are human, exquisitely human, trying to lead yourself through a world that rewards speed and noise, while your heart longs for clarity and calm. You've been told that more effort is always the answer, so you push, then you push harder, then you push beyond what your body can carry, and when the wind doesn't satisfy, you push again. The pattern repeats, the pressure grows, the joy thins, not because you are failing, but because your method is fighting your design. Your nervous system was made for rhythm, not perpetual alarms. Your mind was made for insight, not constant overload. The truth is simple and difficult at once. Running faster on the wrong road only multiplies distance. Across centuries, one voice keeps cutting through the fog with a softness that is somehow firmer than shouting. Solomon does not teach the glamour of shortcuts. He teaches the gravity of wisdom. He speaks as if success is not a prize you seize, but a structure you build. And that structure begins inside, at the level of perception, priorities, and the principles that quietly steer your choices when no one is watching. Wisdom first, then effort. Understanding first, then acceleration. Like a sailor who stops rowing against the wind just long enough to raise the sail, you do not abandon movement. You align it, not louder, not faster, deeper. There is something profoundly practical, even biological about this. When your breath slows, your body signals safety. When your body senses safety, your attention steadies. When your attention steadies, your prefrontal clarity begins to lift like morning fog. Emotional neuroscience keeps confirming what ancient wisdom whispered: state shapes sight. The way you feel in your body changes what you see in your options. A small shift, longer exhale, softer shoulders, a name for what hurts, can turn a crowded problem into a solvable pattern. From that steadier state, you can hear distinctions that speed drowns out. The difference between urgent and important, between a shiny opportunity and a true assignment, between applause that fades and fruit that lasts. Perhaps you've chased the feeling of being significant, only to discover that significance without soul care is a costume that gets heavier every mile. Perhaps you've hit goals that looked powerful from a distance, but felt hollow up close. You've tried routines, you've tried planners, you've tried waking earlier and working later, and still something in you keeps asking for a kind of success that doesn't break what it builds. That question is not your enemy. It is your compass. It is the wiser part of you requesting a seat at the table, a seat for order, integrity, patience, and the humble courage to plant seeds for seasons you cannot yet see. So for these next moments, allow a quiet agreement to take shape in you. I will no longer confuse momentum with meaning. I will no longer confuse visibility with value. I will no longer confuse tiredness with proof. There is a secret to success, and it is not hidden behind a paywall or locked inside a personality you must pretend to have. It lives where wisdom lives, in the choices you make when no one is clapping, in the boundaries you honor when no one is watching, in the preparation that looks unimpressive until the day it matters most. Success is not a trick. It is a way, and ways can be learned, rehearsed, refined. As you listen, notice your body's signals without judgment. The breath that wants to lengthen, the shoulders that want to lower, the mind that wants to clear a small space to think. Notice what rises when the noise drops. A memory of where you felt most aligned, a face that represents trust, a truth you already know but haven't named out loud. Let that awareness sit beside you like a trusted friend. Let it keep you company while we walk through what truly builds a life. Not the rush of the beginning, but the wisdom that sets order. Not the glitter of quick wins, but the character that compounds. Not the thrill of fast shortcuts, but the patience that protects the harvest. Not just today's hustle, but tomorrow's unseen seeds. If the secret to success is that wisdom comes first, then one gentle question opens the door. If wisdom came first for you tonight, what would you change first? Hold that question softly. Let it breathe in the quiet. You don't have to force an answer. You only have to make room for one. There is a kind of tired that sleep cannot touch, the kind that builds when you give more and more of yourself to tasks that are not anchored in understanding. You know this tiredness by the way it hums in your ribs and lingers behind your eyes, by the way you finish a long day and still feel strangely unfinished inside. It is not laziness. It is not lack of heart. It is the ache of moving quickly without seeing clearly. The hands work hard while the inner compass flickers, and with every extra push, the path grows a little less certain, a little more crowded, with second guessing. Across the long corridor of time comes a voice that refuses both cynicism and noise. Wisdom is the principal thing, says the ancient line, not as a slogan, but as a structure for living. Success is not a race to be won by the strongest lungs. It is an architecture to be raised by the clearest sight. When wisdom comes first, effort stops fighting effort and begins to cooperate with direction. When wisdom comes first, the same hour carries more meaning, because it is aligned with what truly matters. The outcome may still require sweat, but the sweat has a home. Many of us were taught that more effort always equals more success. It sounds noble because it honors diligence, yet it quietly ignores discernment. In the real world, effort without understanding multiplies waste, and waste disguised as hustle feels heroic for a moment and heavy for a long time. You can work twice as hard and still walk farther from the thing you actually desire. Not because your heart is wrong, but because your map is blurred. Clarity does not shame effort. It gives effort a worthy target. There is something deeply human and wonderfully practical in how this works in the body. When the rhythm of breath softens, the body reads safety. And when the body reads safety, the mind begins to organize the storm. Options separate from each other like clouds after rain. Patterns that were hiding become visible again. Emotional memory loosens its grip, and the wiser part of you steps forward with gentleness and courage. This is not abstract spirituality. This is the felt experience of a nervous system shifting from alarm to attention, and attention is where wisdom does its best work. Imagine the moment before a project begins, or the quiet just before you answer a message that carries weight. In that small space, a person can meet the project with a simple inner order. First, the principle that will govern the choice, then the real objective that gives the work a purpose, then the boundaries that will keep the soul uninjured while the work unfolds. No drama, no performance, only a clean alignment that turns scattered energy into traction. When this inner order is present, delays are less frightening and detours less humiliating, because meaning has already been named. Picture a small boat on a restless bay. The one who knows only to row will keep striking the water with all their might, chest burning, arms shaking, vision narrowed to the next pull. The one who understands wind and sail still cares about movement, yet places the body in a wiser relationship with the elements. The oars do not vanish. They wait while the sail rises. The same water, the same air, the same destination, but a different intelligence guiding the motion. Not harder, wiser. Not louder, clearer. Not faster, truer. You may remember a season when you felt the difference, the meeting where you spoke from grounded insight rather than from panic, the choice you delayed long enough to see its real cost and true reward, the day you removed the extra noise and noticed the one path that made every other path unnecessary. The relief that followed did not come from ease. It came from alignment. The work still asked for you, but it asked for the right you, the you who had decided what matters before the rush began. Wisdom does not cancel ambition. Wisdom purifies it. It keeps the love of impact and removes the hunger for applause. It keeps the energy for progress and removes the fear of being unseen. It keeps the joy of building and removes the need to prove what was never on trial. From this place, the very same tasks take on a softer texture. The day feels less like a chase and more like a craft. You are still moving, still delivering, still stretching beyond comfort, but you are not bargaining away your peace to buy another hour of activity. You are not trading your center for a little more speed. If you listen closely, you can already hear which decision in your life is asking for more understanding than effort. It sits there quietly, patient, almost kind, waiting to be seen. It could be a relationship that needs a new kind of honesty. It could be a goal that needs a smaller, truer frame. It could be a boundary that will keep your heart from splintering while you serve without resentment. Whatever it is, you do not have to wrestle it to the ground. You can let the light touch it, name what is really happening, and allow meaning to set the order of your next steps. Let this be the gentle turn that remembers what your body already knows. Rhythm over alarm, clarity over frenzy, alignment over pressure. The secret to success begins where Solomon began, with wisdom taking the first seat at the table, with understanding choosing the direction before effort provides the fuel. When this order holds, even your pace becomes kinder, and the long road stops feeling like a punishment and starts feeling like a path. And in the small quiet of this moment, a single question opens a door in the heart. Which decision in your life right now is asking for more understanding than effort? There are days when the inside of life feels like a crowded workshop. Tools everywhere, noise from every direction, fragments of good intentions scattered across the floor. You move from one start to another, carrying the weight of unfinished things, and the ache is not only physical. It is the ache of working inside a space that has no clear order. The hours move, the tasks multiply, the mind hums with strain, and still the feeling remains that something essential was missed before the first step was taken. An old line of wisdom rises like a steady hand. Prepare the work outside, then build the house. It is the kind of sentence that sounds simple until you listen with your whole body. It is not asking for more force. It is pointing to sequence. Soil before seed, foundation before frame, map before miles. When the order is right, the effort cooperates with reality. When the order is wrong, even noble effort pulls against itself and leaves a residue of fatigue that rest cannot fully wash away. Hidden underneath overwhelm is often a quiet misconception, the idea that starting is enough. The calendar fills, the to-do list grows. The rush brings a temporary sense of importance, and yet something deeper knows that activity alone will not deliver what the heart is asking for. Without order, the beginning becomes a loop. Every day feels like the first day of the same project, and the finish line keeps moving farther into the haze. Success does not arrive wrapped in mystery. It grows inside a schedule that honors sequence. The body even confirms this truth. When steps are arranged in a clear path, the nervous system reads predictability and lowers its alarms. The breath eases, the shoulders soften, the mind regains bandwidth, attention steadies, and memory stops scattering like birds startled by sudden noise. From that calmer state, the next right task becomes visible, not because it suddenly appeared, but because the fog lifted. There is a quiet elegance to simple order. First, the principle that governs the work, the why that keeps the soul intact. Then the pipeline that carries the work from idea to delivery. Then the calendar that protects time from becoming a blur. Then the boundaries that protect the heart from becoming a casualty. Each layer holds the next, like stones set with care, so the wall will not crumble when weather changes. The effort is still real, the stakes are still high, but now the energy is gathered instead of leaking through the cracks. Imagine a builder standing before an empty lot. There is excitement in the air and materials ready to move. Yet the first move is not lifting bricks. The first move is drawing a straight line and checking it twice. A plumb line appears, invisible to the casual eye, but everything depends on it. Without that silent reference, walls lean even when they look strong, and what seems impressive today asks for repair tomorrow. The line is not glamorous. It is faithful, and faithfulness is what keeps beauty from collapsing under its own weight. Order is not the enemy of creativity. Order is the riverbank that gives creativity a direction. It protects inspiration from evaporating into scattered effort. It gives the mind a frame where insights can land and become something that serves people in the real world. In this way, order is kindness. It is kindness to your future self who will live with the consequences of today. It is kindness to those who depend on you because it makes your yes trustworthy and your presence dependable. There is also a kind of dignity that returns when sequence takes its rightful place. Work stops feeling like a storm you must survive and starts feeling like a craft you can shape. You are no longer reacting to the loudest thing in the room. You are relating to the truest thing in the room. The rhythm shifts from frantic to focused, from scattered to centered, from constant starting to meaningful finishing. The same day, the same tasks, a different interior posture. If you listen beneath the noise, you may notice a single thread running through the moments that have gone well for you. There was order in them, a quiet priority, then a clear path, then time-honored, then healthy limits. The feeling after those moments was not only relief, it was a deep sense of rightness in the body, as if every part of you agreed at once. The mind felt clean, the chest felt open, the day felt like a place you could live in, not a place you had to escape. The wisdom remains steady. Order creates outcomes. In the gentle stillness of that truth, one question arrives with the clarity of morning. What must happen first so everything else becomes easier or unnecessary? There are moments when the wind lands, and yet something inside stays quiet. The applause fades, and the room goes still, and what remains is the feeling of who you were while you were getting there. The body knows this difference. It knows the warmth that arrives when trust is intact, and it knows the chill that sets in when a corner was cut and a piece of you was traded away. The world often measures by totals and trophies. The soul measures by the wake your name leaves behind. One way buys a moment, the other builds a life. Ancient wisdom speaks with a steady certainty that does not need to shout. A good name is of greater value than great riches. Not because money is unimportant, but because money cannot carry the weight of meaning that a trustworthy life provides. A name holds memory. It carries the way you handled power when no one was watching. It carries the way you spoke about people who could not repay you. It carries the way your yes remained a yes when cost appeared later than expected. When the name is sound, doors open without knocking. When the name is cracked, even open doors feel unsafe to enter. Shortcuts sparkle in the beginning and splinter at the end. They promise speed, and sometimes they deliver it. But the cost arrives later and it charges interest. You see it in stalled promotions that never make sense on paper. You see it in relationships that turn formal and cautious. You see it in chances that drift towards someone else without drama or announcement. Meanwhile, integrity is quiet and patient. It looks slow until a certain threshold is crossed, and then it looks inevitable. Character does not flash. Character compounds. There is a living intelligence in the body that recognizes this law. When actions match values, the nervous system settles into a steady readiness. Breath lengthens, focus sharpens, memory retrieves what you need without that frantic scrape against the edges of your mind. Energy stops leaking into self-justification and returns to the work itself. Emotional neuroscience would say that congruence lowers internal alarms and frees executive attention. Wisdom would say that truth inside you makes a wider pathway for truth around you. Both are describing the same mercy, peace that is not passive, alertness without fear. Consider the simple dignity of being known as fair, not flawless, fair. The kind of fair that keeps the scales honest even when no one will audit the numbers later. The kind of fair that chooses clarity over cleverness when a decision could be framed to benefit you at someone else's expense. Each small choice becomes a deposit. Each deposit increases the quiet wealth of credibility. Over time, that credibility gathers a kind of gravity. People feel safer near it, Opportunities are drawn to it. Influence grows around it without the ache of chasing. There are a few anchors that hold this ground. Truth that refuses to bend language until it hides reality. Fairness that gives others what you would want if your positions were reversed. Stewardship that treats resources and relationships as trusts rather than toys. These are not slogans to hang on a wall. They are muscles to be strengthened in ordinary days. They turn decisions into declarations about who you are. They turn pressure into proof that your foundation can carry weight. The world sometimes puts a crown on a neck that has not been strengthened. The weight looks glorious until the first long day arrives. Ambition can lift the crown for a moment. Integrity carries it for a lifetime. This is why a name becomes more than a label. It becomes a shelter. People stand under it. They rest under it. They bring their own names near it because they trust they will not be injured there. This is the strange arithmetic of character. You become larger by becoming cleaner. You become stronger by becoming truer. There will always be moments when a smaller gain looks tempting because it is immediate. The email that could hide a detail. The meeting where silence would benefit you more than honesty. The negotiation where the story could be told in a way that tilts the table. The body will tell on you in those moments, a tightening in the throat, a heat in the face, a restless mind that starts building excuses before the choice is even complete. These are not enemies, they are signals. They are your deeper self asking to be chosen over the quick reward. When credibility is guarded, opportunity changes its movement around you. People who have options choose you. Plans that require trust include you. Rooms that were once distant begin to feel familiar, not because you chased them, but because you became the kind of person those rooms are built to hold. This is the subtle privilege of a good name. It removes the constant need to prove and replaces it with a quiet ability to serve. If you look back at the seasons that felt most right, you will likely find this thread running through them. You were not the loudest person in the room. You were the same person in every room. Your words did not try to outrun your actions. Your actions did not betray your words. There was alignment, and alignment feels like clean air in the chest. It feels like steady ground under the feet. It feels like the simple strength of being undivided. Character compounds faster than cash. Cash can be counted and still slip away. Character once established begins to invite a different kind of wealth: trust, testimony. Time saved because you do not have to repair what your choices broke. Doors that open because someone spoke your name with warmth. In the end, success that rests on character is not only safer, it is sweeter. It does not tremble when the lights go out. It does not crumble when pressure rises. It endures like a well-built house in changing weather. A quiet question waits at the edge of this truth. Where are you trading long-term credibility for short-term gain? There are victories that arrive too quickly and leave a strange silence behind them. A silence that feels less like peace and more like a room cleared in a hurry where something important was left on the floor. In the beginning, the quick path sparkles and the body thrills with the rush of getting there first. But later the quiet tells a fuller story. Corners were shaved, questions were ignored. A weight settles in the chest that sleep does not quite lift. And the next morning begins with a thin dread that more speed will be required to keep the fragile win from falling apart. Ancient wisdom carries a steady countercurrent. Better is the end than the beginning, and the patient heart stands taller than the proud one. The meaning reaches into the nerves as much as the mind. Pride demands a fast arrival because it needs the sensation of being ahead, while patience accepts the slow construction that makes an ending worth living in. Pride spends tomorrow to buy today. Patience invests today to free tomorrow. The first gives the thrill of a spark. The second gives the warmth of a fire that lasts through night. The body recognizes the difference even before words form. Shortcuts hold the nervous system in a narrow band of urgency. Shoulders crowd upward. Breath sits high and thin. Attention narrows until only the scoreboard remains. And with that narrowing comes a loss of nuance that good judgment requires. The brain shifts toward immediate relief and away from long-horizon wisdom. Emotional memory then wires hurried success to the feeling of safety, which is why the next season reaches for speed again, even when the last season ended with exhaustion. Rushed work often asks for more work. A product delivered too soon returns in the form of repairs and apologies. A promise made for the sake of applause reappears as a relationship that no longer trusts the ground it stands on. A decision pressed to satisfy urgency becomes a pattern of rework that consumes the very time it tried to save. This is the hidden arithmetic of shortcuts. They discount the future and then tax it with interest. There is a quieter path that does not flatter the ego at the start, yet honors the soul at the finish. When timelines breathe, learning finds room to do its healing work. Quality becomes visible before consequences do. The mind widens enough to see risks that are not loud, but are real. The body receives the message that it is safe to think deeply, safe to wait for alignment, safe to build at a pace that will hold under weather. This slow strength does not draw a crowd at the beginning, but it gathers trust as it moves, and trust is the currency that lasts when the season changes. Imagine the life of a tree raised inside a greenhouse where wind never tests it. It grows tall and soft, impressive in photographs and fragile in storms. Then see the tree that has met real weather, short days, hard rain, a steady push of wind across its young years. The trunk thickens, the roots drive into stone and soil. It does not grow as quickly at first, but when the season turns and the air shifts and the sky presses down, it remains. The world calls one growth. Wisdom calls the other strength. The same law holds in the interior life. Endurance is not the absence of feeling. It is the trained capacity to keep a promise when the mood of the moment would prefer an easier road. It is the decision to let excellence mature rather than dress it up and send it out before it can stand. It is the courage to accept that meaningful outcomes require gestation, and that gestation is not a delay in life, but life doing its meticulous work at a pace that respects reality. There is kindness woven into this slower wisdom. It protects the heart from living in constant emergency. It protects relationships from being used as tools for speed. It protects work from looking finished and living unfinished. And in that protection, a different kind of relief appears. Not the relief of being done, but the relief of being true. The body knows this relief. The breath lengthens, the jaw softens, the eyes lift from the clock and return to the craft. A sense of rightness returns to the spine. Pressure will always tempt haste with the promise of control. Yet the deepest control is often found in patience, because patience keeps choices aligned with values when the room gets loud. The fast win feels like power while it is being chased. The lasting win feels like peace when the lights go out. Over time, the difference becomes visible in outcomes that do not need rescue, in plans that do not demand apology, in a life that can weather change without breaking what it built. In the quiet, after all the noise, one simple sentence remains. What rushed decision in your life needs to be slowed long enough to mature well? There is a quiet field inside every life where tomorrow is already being written. Most days, it is easy to forget this field exists because the noise of today is so loud and the demands are so immediate. Yet the deeper truth remains that outcomes are born from rhythms that rarely make a sound. The harvest people admire begins as a handful of small choices far from the spotlight, and the heart can feel this truth before the mind agrees with it. Something in you knows that what lasts is planted long before it is praised. The seasons teach what hurry tries to hide. There is a time for the earth to look empty, while roots travel where eyes cannot follow. There is a time for steady watering that seems to change nothing until one morning it changes everything. This is not punishment, and it is not delay for delay's sake. It is the way strength becomes part of the structure so that beauty does not collapse under surprise weather. The soul has its own agronomy, and it honors what is sown with patience more than what is announced with flair. Often discouragement does not come from lack of progress, but from lack of visibility. The body longs to see something move so it can relax its guard. And when nothing appears, the old fear returns that effort is being wasted. Emotional memory ties safety to quick feedback, so the absence of early results makes the nervous system whisper that the path is wrong. Yet wisdom and neuroscience meet at the same table here. State shapes sight, and when the body is calmed, the eyes recover the ability to track subtle change. Moisture gathering in the soil, texture shifting at the surface, a pattern of consistency forming beneath the calendar's noise. What looks unproductive from a distance often turns out to be essential up close. Hours given to invisible skill sharpen a craft until it sings without shouting. Conversations tended with sincerity weave a web of trust that holds when storms arrive. Hidden acts of stewardship build a foundation that does not crack when weight increases. None of this sparkles in the beginning, yet all of it speaks with authority in the end. The future has a way of honoring what was planted for its sake rather than for applause. There is a tender humility to sowing when you do not know which field will prosper. It keeps the heart from trying to control outcomes it was never designed to govern. It keeps the hands faithful in small things so that large things do not distort the soul when they finally appear. It keeps hope grounded, not in fantasies of overnight change, but in the steady relief of being aligned with reality. In that alignment, the day becomes simpler even when it is full, because purpose reduces noise to signal and turns distraction into distance between you and what you value. Think of all the small investments that do not seem to matter while you make them. 10 quiet minutes with a book that thickens your understanding. A message sent with care that deepens a bond. A line of work finished with integrity after the room has emptied. The world rarely claps for these moments, yet these are the very moments that train your name to carry weight. They are the seeds of credibility, and credibility is the climate in which opportunities grow without being forced. The body knows when you are living this way. There is less of the jumpy adrenaline that makes sleep thin and mornings brittle. There is more of the grounded energy that moves through a day with steadiness rather than strain. Breath widens. Attention becomes generous. The mind stops bargaining with time and begins to cooperate with it. The heart regains that quiet courage that allows you to be consistent when consistency has not yet produced a visible return. Patience in this sense is not passive. It is a kind of disciplined kindness toward your future. It is the choice to be faithful to a process, even when the scoreboard is mute. It is the deep understanding that life gives compound interest to aligned effort. You become the kind of person who can carry the harvest without being carried away by it. And that is a different kind of success altogether. It is success with a soul inside. There will be days when nothing seems to answer, when the ground looks stubborn and the sky gives no signal. Those days are not evidence that the field is barren. They are invitations to remember what cannot be seen while it is becoming true. Roots rarely make announcements. They simply hold. And when the season turns, they prove why the waiting mattered by how easily the visible can now stand. In the hush that follows this understanding, one question rises like first light over a patient field. What seed can be planted today that your future self will bless in the season to come? There is a way of moving through the hours that feels like being carried rather than chased. It does not demand heroic effort or dramatic vows. It asks for a light touch, a clear center, and a willingness to let wisdom set the tone before noise takes the stage. This rhythm keeps the soul in conversation with what matters, while the world makes its requests. It is quiet enough to hear truth and strong enough to hold shape when the day turns loud. In the early light, a simple orientation steadies the heart. The mind remembers a principle that dignifies the coming choices, something as plain as honoring truth over convenience or people over performance. The body softens as the purpose of the day becomes less about proving and more about aligning. Emotional memory begins to pair the dawn with safety and clarity, and that pairing becomes a kind of inner sunrise no matter the weather outside. In the middle hours, the room tends to tilt toward urgency, and this is where order becomes a shelter. Sequence returns like a trusted friend. The first things reclaim the first place. Plans are not idolized, they are humanized, shaped to fit reality without losing their spine. The nervous system receives the message that predictability has not vanished and that attention can stay generous. Work takes on the calm of a craft rather than the rattle of a chase. In the quiet that gathers before night, another kind of strength arrives. Integrity is invited to tell the truth about the day without accusation. Where words matched values, the body feels taller. Where pressure bent a line, compassion offers a chance to straighten it before tomorrow asks for more weight. This gentle accounting does not bruise the spirit. It frees it. The name you carry rests a little easier on your shoulders because it was guarded, and that peace travels with you into sleep. This daily rhythm is small on the surface and large in its effects. It lowers alarms without lowering standards. It lets wisdom choose the fuel before effort presses the pedal. It protects the deep places from being traded for quick victories, and it trains hope to look for roots as much as for fruit. Over time, the inner weather changes. Breath grows wider, focus grows kinder, decisions feel less like collisions and more like agreements with the person you have chosen to be. What begins as a gentle cadence often becomes a quiet strength. People feel it around you before they can name it. Your yes gains weight. Your presence steadies rooms. Opportunities that require trust find their way to your door, not because you chased them, but because your life began to speak a language they understand. In this way, the rhythm becomes more than a habit. It becomes the atmosphere of a life built on wisdom. By now, the shape of a quieter success has taken form inside you, not as a slogan, but as a felt alignment that settles the chest and clears the eyes. Wisdom before hustle turned the wheel from frantic spinning to meaningful traction. Order created outcomes that no longer depend on last-minute heroics. Character began to speak a language that money cannot imitate. Shortcuts revealed their thin shine and their heavy cost. Sowing for unseen seasons returned patience to its rightful place as the guardian of lasting harvests. What began as ideas arrived as a change in atmosphere, the inner weather shifting from storm to sky. There is a freedom that comes when the soul stops bargaining with speed. You can sense it in the way your breath no longer chases the clock, in the way your thoughts find a path wide enough for nuance, in the way your body reads safety even while you carry weight. Emotional memory starts to pair effort with calm rather than with alarm, and that pairing becomes a quiet engine, not a rush that burns out, a steady current that holds. The story of success told by the loudest corners of the world often celebrates beginnings. Tonight, another story is standing beside you with a gentler strength. Better is the end that has been shaped by patience than the splash that fades by evening. Better is the name that has been guarded choice by choice than the spotlight that cannot keep its promises. Better is the field that looks ordinary in winter and feeds a city in summer than the garden that blooms once and collapses at the first hard wind. Practical spirituality lives here, at the meeting point of breath and belief, of nervous system and wisdom, of ancient lines and modern rooms. When the state of the body is soothed, sight clears, and when sight clears, choices return to their true size. The urgent shrinks back to its place. The important steps forward without shouting. Integrity feels less like a burden and more like the simplest way to stand. You find yourself choosing what lasts, because lasting things finally look beautiful again. There is nothing to prove in this place, and yet much to build. The day becomes a craft rather than a test, a series of honest agreements between who you are and what you value. Work keeps its dignity because it no longer costs you the center you were given to protect. Relationships stop feeling transactional because the hunger for applause has loosened its hold. Your name begins to carry a warmth that opens doors without knocking. That warmth did not arrive by chance. It arrived by the steady mercy of small, faithful seeds. Every life holds a crown of some kind, a weight of influence that rests on the neck, whether seen or unseen. Ambition can lift it for a moment. Wisdom is what carries it without injury. Wisdom does not demand a different personality. Wisdom arranges the same strengths into a truer order and returns you to yourself. You become the person your work was waiting for, not the performance your fear was rehearsing. As this chapter settles, notice the hush that follows understanding. It is the sound of pressure losing its disguise, the sound of clarity finding a chair, the sound of hope that no longer needs noise to feel alive. In that hush, a single question rises with the tenderness of first light and the weight of a promise kept. If wisdom came first in you now, which unseen seed would you choose to plant first?